Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Hatton, and this is the Convergence Emergence. And we are a channel that specializes in analyzing convergent technologies and then kind of explaining what that means. So, not just from the individual silo of each technology, but what happens when these two converge together? How does it widen the scope? And then even what kind of business model innovations are we seeing from this? So there's a few particular kind of understandings that are necessary to realize what is actually happening in societies today. And one of those base knowledge pieces is called the 7Ds of exponential technologies. And in a quick run through, the 7Ds are: first you digitize something, and then there's deceptive growth, and then there's disruptive growth, and then there's dematerialization, and then there's demonetization, and then there's democratization, and finally decentralization. Each one of those has lots of case studies that you can pick out throughout time, but the best one is of Kodak and the digital camera. You know, they invented the digital camera, and when the person brought it to the board, the board rejected it because it was 0.01 megapixels. And they're like, this looks all square, blocky, nasty. What do we want from this? We're a paper and chemicals company. Get this out of here. But then, it was exposed to the development of computational power, which some people call Moore's Law, which, has matured. But technically, it just meant that price performance of processing power was doubling every 18 to 24 months. Performance means you're getting double the capability for the same price or lower price. But then there's deceptive growth. So every 18 to 24 months, it doubles in capability. So 0.01 to 0.02, 0.02 to 0.04, 0.04 to 0.08, 0.08 to 0.16, 0.32, 0.64, 1.28. And these are megapixels I'm talking about. And then, so this was back in the mid to late 70s, where the digital camera was invented. And it wasn't until the turn of the millennium when we started to see digital camera offerings at comparable prices with similar cameras. So that's when deceptive growth meets this disruptive growth phase, because that point occurs in time when the offerings of what used to be thought of as nasty and not even comparable to what's on the market now is comparable and matched, not only in price but capability. But that doesn't stop that doubling in capability. So that's where the disruptive growth phase comes in, and that results in disruptive opportunity and disruptive stress. So for the digital camera providers, that was opportunity. And for companies like Kodak and Polaroid, that was stress. But then we get into this dematerialization phase. So when you had to buy film for the camera, film developed, buy a disposable camera, have all the gears and the oil for good cameras, and buy a photo album. So all of these things kind of got dematerialized into the digital camera, where then we could just use our printer to print these things out. That goes to show that when you can literally dematerialize something into a digital space, that leads to what's known as demonetization, because now not only are these things gone, you don't have to pay for them. And early on in digital cameras, you just had the batteries and then the memory chips, and those have disappeared too, largely, for non-professionals. And it's a beautiful thing, because you're still capable of getting the benefit from photography. You're just not having to spend as much on it now. And where it morphed to there. So after dematerialization and demonetization, we have this democratization phase, because I think way back when, in 2018, there was over 1 trillion photos taken and documented on some of those online sites like Instagram and Ticker or whatnot. That wouldn't have been possible with paper and chemicals. The supply just wouldn't be there. So that opens up a brand new space where People are holding the take picture button down because it doesn't cost them anymore to take a picture where it would have with the old system. And that enables humanity as a whole to benefit highly from the digital space in terms of photography. And this is a side of all access arguments, because we can go deep on those if you want. But companies are giving devices away for free that can take photos just so that they can get subscribers. So just that argument is pretty much over at this point, so don't bring it up. Even though it's zero marginal cost to take a photo, and we're at this point where we're like, we can take as many as we want, and anybody else can take as many as they want. That reaches a level of abundance. So it's good for the individual, but there's still wealth and power accumulated around the photography industry. And there is a zero marginal cost, meaning it will never be zero, but it will get closer to zero. So the providers of the device and the cameras in the device still benefit from selling the camera and then working in some kind of piecemeal capability of the camera and life expectancy of the camera. So, there's all kinds of math that you need to take into account from the company standpoint, but from the individual standpoint, you're just taking photos. But this leads to the decentralization part. So it's like, how can we still have all these benefits of democratization without accumulating power and wealth? And that's when we create the decentralized core, where all participants of the platform and the cooperative accumulate the wealth and power around photography. So some will have price, some won't, but the platform accumulates it and distributes it evenly amongst everybody. So when one individual does well in a platform, the whole platform benefits, not just the individual. And that's an important thing to know. So always think plus sum games when we're talking about decentralization. And the reason I bring this up is because there's humanoid robots on the horizon. So robots that can literally do what we can do by shape and capability. Tesla is starting their project. Boston Dynamics has a project. They're owned by Hyundai, the automobile maker. Get into that. There's all kinds of mom and pop shops too that are trying to produce robots that are humanoid form for various reasons. And what the 7Ds has to do with this is we're talking about now, instead of dematerializing like a calendar or a camcorder or a camera into a cell phone, we're actually talking about dematerializing actual careers into this robot. So when the robot learns how to do what you're doing, whether it's physical or intellectual, they will start to train on that, and they'll get better and better and better over time. Where some humans do not. So that's gonna start to displace us out of the entire workforce that exists right now. But it leaves us the capability to create new things, which then they will start to learn and do better than us. And, so maybe the whole point is that we have to learn how to do that ourselves. How can everybody be continuously improving? Excuse me, I don't think that's the point. But the current socioeconomic system does. So when we're able to start replacing productivity with automated robots, what does that say about us? Because then that means like all the measurements, money supply, GDP, everything is not dependent on us anymore. Because, productivity per capita, and then we're buying and selling, but we're not making any money. So where's that? It doesn't compute.
Does not compute. Does not compute. Does not compute.
There's new things here that need to be brought into the educational standpoint. And this has to do with exponential economics, zero marginal cost economics, and abundance economics. Those don't exist in supply and demand economics, folks. And it's not going to take long for this to happen. And you better bet your bottom dollar that your CEO or your manager or your boss is like, how many jobs can I eliminate and how quickly can I automate? You better know that that's happening, because they're just going to make it sound like, oh, we're just going to replace one of you to do the task that nobody wants to do. But then it's like, oh, this is doing those tasks, but now I want it to do something else. And then it's just, oh, wait, now it can do this. So I'm gonna have it train on what you're doing, or like they're going to ask you to train it to displace you. That's what they're going to ask you to do, and then they're going to fire you, and that's the way it's going to be. And so we just need to accept that and move on. And people are like, oh no, like global government or national laws will prevent this. Fuck no, they won't. You kidding me? Edit that part. No, they won't. They're going to encourage this because they want productivity per capita to go up. And the only way to do that is to replace our productivity with productivity that will not complain and will not file lawsuits against us and will not take breaks and will not take lunch breaks, won't go home. If you want it that way, it'll just use all of its battery and then go to the charger, charge fully, and then go back at it again. So it's like, what are we saying? And if you think that intellectual labor is safe, we've already had the algorithms that could replace a lot of it right now. And some of those headlines are hitting, have hit the mainstream media for a decade, like, oh, AI is better at this, AI is better at that, AI is better at this. It's already all there. The only reason why it hasn't happened yet is because we don't have a system to replace the one we have right now. So it's coming, and there's anonymous smart contracts. So anonymous blockchains that can handle smart contracts will force the issue here. And you can already build on these things right now. So it's just about mastering how to produce programs that will cause a massive change, in our socioeconomic system anonymously, good and bad. So be prepared for that. And just wipe what we traditionally depend on completely out of relevance. And that's going to happen not only this decade, but it's going to start this year. So you better bet on. And then one last thing on humanoid robots is that Tesla just had their investor day and they announced that it's probably going to be 1-to-1, meaning there's going to be 8 billion of these robots. So just get ready for that, folks. All right. That's kind of something that was on my mind here, is specifically the part about humanoid robots absorbing careers as a whole, and more over time and quicker. So if you guys have any comments, drop them below. Any suggestions on future videos, drop that below. And we're looking for excitement in these things. So thank you guys very much, and we'll see you on the next one.